who the Lakers traded in 1975 to acquire a player named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from Milwaukee, passed away after suffering a medical emergency while attending an event in Louisville. Bridgeman was 71. Bridgeman played the last 2 seasons of his 12-year NBA career with the Clippers. The real story about Bridgeman is what he did after basketball. He never made more than $350,000 a year in his career, but he became a billionaire after building a fast food empire. In February, Forbes magazine listed Bridgeman's net worth as more than $1.4 billion. More on the outstanding legacy of Junior Bridgeman this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
we're moving on now.
Earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and you can get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.show.com. That's thetavismiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, First Amendment Coalition Legal Director David Loy with a warning about the future of free speech in America in light of the Trump administration's arrest, detainment, and if they have their way, deportation of Columbia University protester Mahmoud Khalil. We raised this issue yesterday. We're going to update you on this today, but this is a dangerous space to be in, where this administration thinks they can arrest people whose free speech rights exercised they disagree with. They arrest you, they detain you, and they try to deport you when you are a legal citizen because they don't like your protest on the campus of Columbia University. First, there was Mahmoud Khalil, and then next it'll be me and you and everybody else. Lottie Dottie and everybody is going to be in trouble if Donald Trump gets away with this. So clearly it's a test. He's going to push the envelope off the table, out the door, and down the street, see what he can get away with. We'll talk about it with David Loy in our second hour, the top of our second hour. On the B side of hour 2,
In January 2025, the Eaton Fire devastated Altadena, California, a community rich in Black history and culture. The blaze destroyed over 9,400 structures, with more than 7,000 homes, schools, and businesses lost in Altadena alone. This catastrophe has profoundly impacted a neighborhood that has long stood as a symbol of Black progress and resilience.
This is my home. This is my home. And my home is gone.
Altadena After the Fire is an Urban One podcast dedicated to chronicling the community's journey toward recovery. Each episode provides up-to-date information from our partners in the Los Angeles area, offering in-depth interviews and on-the-ground reporting. We will explore personal stories of loss and survival, examine the environmental and political factors contributing to the disaster, and discuss ongoing efforts to rebuild. Our mission is to keep you informed about Altadena's fight to restore normalcy while preserving its rich cultural heritage. And you may be asking, how can I help? Urban One is supporting the Brotherhood Crusades Wildlife Relief Fund, which aims to assist residents and businesses in Altadena and Pasadena affected by the Eaton Fire. Your donations will provide essential resources such as food, medicine, and other necessities to families in need. To contribute and make a difference, please visit urban1cares.com. I'm your host, Colby Kolb. Tune in to Altadena After the Fire to understand the true cost of the fires and witness the unwavering strength of a community determined to rise from the ashes.
On the backside of our tour, we'll be joined by Colby Kolb. His real name is Colby Tyner. Colby Kolb, Senior Vice President of Programming at Radio 1 and Reach Media, will join us to talk about what you just heard, the trailer for this new Urban One podcast called Altadena After the Fire, chronicling the aftermath and Altadena's determination, that is, to rise from the ashes. I am pleased to say, you probably heard Colby in that trailer. He sort of referenced this. His L.A. partners, that's us, my home station in L.A. KBLA Talk 1580 is a partner on this project. We are providing much of the content that the national audience will be hearing about Altadena rising in this new podcast from Urban One called Altadena After the Fire. Of course, locally here in L.A., where I sit right now, we have our own program every week called Conversation Live. Altadena Rising, hosted by James Farr. That program premiered last week. Great response to the first episode. We're doing that series every Sunday live at 10 a.m. in L.A., a reprise every Sunday at 12 noon. So we're doing our own program here locally, but I'm pleased that Urban One, that Reach Media has decided that nationally they've gotten so much interest. There is so much interest in this story about Altadena here in Southern California that they're doing a national podcast that everybody can follow along with. Black people all across the country, literally from California to the Carolinas, through the Urban One Radio Network. That's a lot of stations that Kathy Hughes and her son Alfred Liggins own. And so our work is featured as a part of their podcast as well. So we'll talk to Colby Kolb about what Urban One hopes to accomplish with this new podcast called Altadena After the Fire. We'll have that conversation with Colby Kolb on the B-side of Hour 2. In our third hour.
After tallying everything up, we'd like to announce that the winner is nobody.
But each of your projects were amazing in their own way.
Yes, unfortunately, no one project satisfied all of the judges' wildly different standards.
How can a volcano be culturally appropriated?
I produced the light from a potato. What have you made from a potato besides hash browns?
Yeah. Miss Howard's just a hater.
Listen, we understand your frustration, but this is good. Science is all about trial and error.
These rules are absurd and have nothing to do with their projects.
I just wanted to paint my volcano and put jelly beans on it, but Miss Teagues wouldn't let me.
And I wanted to put googly eyes on my potato.
That was you.
That would have been cool as hell. Those eyes would have been all like, whoa.
Yeah. The grown-ups took this way too seriously.
Hey,
You don't get to judge us anymore. Okay, fellow scientists, change your projects back to what you wanted them to be. And then we'll judge ourselves and choose our own winner.
That's a little revolting. Absolutely not.
Too late. We already whooped an agreement.
That might be the line of the day. The grown-ups took this too seriously. The grown-ups took it too seriously. We will be joined in our third hour by actor and comedian Jerry Miller, talking about his current role on Abbott Elementary. It's a huge hit, as you well know. We'll talk about Abbott Elementary and Jerry's role in that series when we get to hour 3 today. In this first hour, when we come forward, we'll commence a conversation about what else politics. There's a lot to talk about with University of Baltimore law professor and author and Fulbright scholar, for that matter, Kimberly Whaley. Will commence the show when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
A new day is on the horizon.
Who paved the way for the leaders of today? An untold number of remarkable women, known and unknown, who shaped our past and continue to inspire our future in every field of human endeavor, education, civil rights, technology, and more. Celebrating Women's History Month, we are KBLA Talk 1580. Many of the 39 BLM grassroots chapters across the nation are participating in this honoring of the memory of Breonna Taylor on the anniversary of her death. This BLMLA event is taking place on Sunday, March 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Norman Houston Park, 4800 South La Brea in Los Angeles, the park at the summit. For special parking options and more information, visit blmla.org or go to BLM Los Angeles on Instagram. Say her name, Breonna Taylor, and join us in loving on Black women. Happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, University of Baltimore law professor and Fulbright scholar and author. We'll get to her book a little bit later, I suspect, in this conversation. It's called Pardon Power, How the Pardon System Works and Why. Kim Whaley, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great. Tavis, thanks for having me. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well and delighted to have you on the program. Let me jump in and make the most of these 45 minutes that we have. There is news at this hour I know at the moment you are across the pond and not in Baltimore. But we have been talking on this program, and for that matter, all across the country. Folk have been engaged in conversation about what it really means for Donald Trump to promise he's going to close down the Department of Education. So here's the news of the day. The Department of Education offices are closed today. They've shut down the entire Department of Education. They are saying for security reasons. Of course, this comes after these major job cuts were announced, but the doors of the building are closed. They're not letting in any of the Department of Education workers today. It seems to me that after this announcement that they're cutting about 50% of the workforce, somebody got a little scared that there might be some pushback. And because you close for one day doesn't mean that pushback isn't coming. And I certainly am not one, Kim Whaley, nor are you, calling for violence as a response. But this is we've never been in a moment like this. It's unprecedented. I mean, Donald Trump promised all along that he wanted to close down the Department of Education. That was part of the Project 2025 plan. He announces Linda McMahon, who has no qualifications whatsoever to be Secretary of Education, and now we know why she was put there, because she is the one who was going to follow his edict, his orders, and shut this department down. But what do you make of the fact that today they have literally closed the doors on the offices of the Department of Education?
Well, as you know, I'm a constitutional law expert and also an expert in federal agencies. So I've been teaching this for 15, 16 years. And there are all kinds of laws and procedures in place to protect workers, to protect the mission of these departments, which are really controlled by Congress in terms of what they can and cannot do. Congress creates by statute all these agencies, including even the Department of Justice. And in each statute creating each of these agencies, Congress sets the rules for what they can and they cannot do. And prior to the second Trump administration, if presidents or political parties were unhappy with how a particular agency worked, the answer was you go to Congress and you lobby your colleagues in Congress to change the statute and change basically the mandate or the job description of that particular agency. That's how our separation of powers, that's how our constitutional democracy is established. What Donald Trump is doing is just coming in and doing what he wants, really in a way almost by force. I mean, not with guns, of course, but we heard this with the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which was not created by Congress. There's lawsuits claiming, and I think rightly, that it's not even an agency. But they showed up at these folks' desks and they said, give me your passwords into, for example, the Department of Treasury's database, which has, if anyone's gotten their tax return refunds direct deposited in their bank accounts, that's the kind of information. Deeply, deeply private, personal information. You want to know it's secure. And these folks were told, listen, you turn over the login and the passwords, or you're going home. And then they were escorted out of the building.
Yeah.
So, the Department of Education doesn't have a police force. They don't have an army, right? And we even saw with other agencies, members of Congress joining protesters outside these agencies, USAID, for example, trying to get in. No president has tried to strong-arm, bully, basically force their way into consolidating power like a monarch. And that's what we're seeing. So, it's not so much that it's legal what he's doing. It's just that no one is stopping him. And we're on this moment where the Republicans in the Senate and the Congress are going to, it looks like, fund this illegal destruction of the entire federal government, or big chunks of it, under the control, not just of Donald Trump, who was elected, but Elon Musk, who's not even a federal employee, let alone a cabinet level official. It's astonishing and deeply, deeply disturbing. And it's going to affect Americans, particularly Americans, frankly, in red states who depend on the Department of Education's funding.
Yeah.
Education in the United States is actually a state-by-state law legal system. You have a different education system in Maryland than you have in Virginia or in California. The Department of Education gives a lot of money, federal taxpayer money, to your local school to have your school program. So shutting down the Department of Education is going to have a direct impact on those places where they really rely on the federal funds.
I didn't want to interrupt. You've said a few things there now.
Yeah.
I'm glad you laid that out. You answered my question brilliantly and thoroughly. And now I want to start to interrogate some of what you've just said. You used the words, as I recall, astonishing and disturbing. Those are two words that I think fit the frame, astonishing and disturbing. But to me, it's more than just that. It's anti-democratic. And that's essentially the point that you were making. This is anti-democratic. These agencies, in case you've just tuned in, the Department of Education has shut its doors. They've already announced they're laying off at least half of the workforce. And today, for security reasons, so they say, they have closed down for the day the Department of Education. It is not a federal holiday. They've just closed that one department down. I suspect the same is going to be in the offing for other departments, but today it's DOE. You said earlier, Professor Whaley, that these agencies are indeed controlled by Congress. We understand what the founding documents say. I got a bright audience. They understand the separation of powers, and yet that's not what's happening in front of us. So here's my point, and I'm not naive in asking this. If these agencies are controlled by Congress, then why today is the office closed? If Congress controls this and not the administration, that's not what we're seeing happen in real time. I mean, the administration, the executive branch, let's just call it what it is. The executive branch is running roughshod over the legislative branch. That ain't the way it's supposed to work, to your point of the separation of powers.
Well, there's a couple things. Let me just use an example
Sure.
from people's everyday lives, right? Because it is, as you know, complicated and nuanced and theoretical. But we've all been in a car or driven a car, and there are speed limits. You know, I live outside of Washington, D.C. I drive to Baltimore to teach my students in the law school in Baltimore. It's 65 miles an hour. If I go, over the speed limit, I might get a ticket. We've all had circumstances in our neighborhood where maybe it's 35 and you'll go 50, you'll go 45. The speed limit doesn't slow you down. It's the threat of a ticket that slows you down. You might have driven one day where, for years on a road, and all of a sudden there's one of those machines in the bushes, and you come home 2 weeks later and you have a ticket in the mail. I guarantee you'll slow down the next time you drive down that street. The issue isn't so much what the law says, what the Constitution says, what Congress says. It's who is giving Donald Trump speeding tickets for blowing through the law. And we saw this during the first Trump administration. Congress laying down on the railroad tracks and just being run over, giving over its prerogative, its authority. Congress is sitting around. The Republicans in Congress, some of them, are jeering him on and sharing the misinformation about what's happening legally. And I just want to say, so, when you think about Tavis, you think about what the framers and the revolutionaries rejected. They didn't want a king. If anyone has seen Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
They were mad at King George III because he was a bully and he had all the power. And so they said, no, nobody gets all the power. We have 3 branches, and each branch gets their papers graded or tickets issued by the other 2 branches. Congress has not been issuing tickets to Donald Trump. It's controlled by the Republicans. And so the courts are stepping in. They're trying to issue tickets. What has happened in a couple of instances, Republicans in Congress have introduced articles of impeachment to fire judges for issuing speeding tickets against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens. The document itself, the Constitution, the laws, don't execute, they don't enforce themselves. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And if Congress isn't going to stand up for its authority and for the rule of law on behalf of the American people, and you've got someone like Donald Trump who doesn't respect it, he doesn't have any internal stop signs, right? That's when a constitutional democracy fails.
Let me talk then about that point again that you raised earlier, that no one is stopping him. That's a quote from you, that no one is stopping him. It seems to me there are only 2 ways he gets stopped. One is that Congress does its job, the legislative branch does its job, and doesn't allow itself to get railroaded, run over, buffaloed, pick your term, by the executive branch. Or the Supreme Court sees this and says, you know what, the legislative branch may not do anything about this, but this is not the way the separation of powers works. This is not the way our founding documents set this up. And so even though we've not been asked, we're going to step into this because he's breaking the law, and clearly we all can see that. Again, you're the expert here, not me, but I don't see any other way he gets stopped. So today it's the Department of Education. Again, who knows what it is tomorrow or the next day, but if no one is stopping him, if the legislative branch doesn't do its job, the judicial branch doesn't step in to do its job, Democrats are in the minority. They have no power. They have agency, but no real power to do anything about it. If the American people don't step in and say enough is enough, this guy doesn't get stopped. And here's the long-term issue. The long-term issue for me is that this becomes then another overreach by the executive branch. Everything that Donald Trump gets away with now as president, every future president will believe that he or she has that same power because it wasn't checked when they first took control of it, if any of that makes sense to you.
100%. I completely agree with you. I mean, the only piece I don't agree with, there are others that don't have my point of view. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to save us.
Right.
He's violating really clear parts of the Constitution. Birthright citizenship, clear as a bell, right? It's clear. 4 judges have already said no. We don't need the Supreme Court to read the Constitution to Donald Trump. The Constitution creates the Supreme Court. It is above the Supreme Court. It is the law of the land. We don't need the Supreme Court to get out a black Sharpie or highlighter and say, oh, by the way, yeah, Mr. President, the Constitution is a valid law. And frankly, I don't know that this court, after it handed him immunity last summer, criminal immunity, would even say that. I mean, I think they're not. There's some that are politically ideological, which is unfortunate. So I think it's almost a danger to go to the Supreme Court because they might really just wipe out officially parts of the Constitution. So, I think, how do you stop it? You mentioned it. I mean, there's 3 things. One is protests. And I've been surprised being in Netherlands, frankly, that some of the people here are on their social media accounts are seeing more coverage of the protests than we're seeing, at least my friends are seeing in the United States. People need to be loud, and it needs to come out now. Pressure on their representatives in the United States Congress. I mean, at this point, for the United States Congress to amend the Department of Education's statute isn't going to change anything. Frankly, what needs to happen, Tavis, is impeachment.
Yeah.
That seems inconceivable. But now that Donald Trump knows he can never be prosecuted if he violates the law or even commits crimes, because the Supreme Court's given that, it really has to be the people that come out en masse and take back the democracy. I want to say one more thing, which is, if you're a visual learner, think of a triangle or a pyramid. That's King George III. The power came from God, from the divine. That was the idea. So the king could do whatever he wants. The framers flipped that upside down. And now we are at the top of the upside down pyramid. The flat part of the triangle is at the top. That's the people. We are in charge.
Yeah,
it's our government.
Yeah, but Donald
And
Trump,
then it's supposed to trickle down to a president, not the other way around. Trump has flipped it back to a triangle.
I was about to say that. He flipped it back the other way. And not only did he just flip it back the other way, in his most recent speech to a joint session of Congress, he basically said that God put me here. God saved my life and put me here to do this job. Donald Trump just went biblical. He knows nothing about the Bible. You recall the photo he took when he was first elected. He was holding the Bible upside down. He didn't even know how to hold the Bible right side up. So you know he ain't reading it. But he's taking that phrase, that biblical edict, for such a time as this. That's basically what he said. I am here. God saved my life for such a time as this. Linda McMahon, the Secretary of the Education Department, said yesterday, today's reduction in force, this was yesterday's comment again, today's reduction in force reflects the Department of Education's commitment to efficiency, accountability, and ensuring that resources are directed where they matter most to students, parents, and teachers. Okay, that was yesterday's statement. And then today they shut the department down. They say for security reasons. It feels to me, if they keep this up, that somebody is going to go postal. I'm not calling for that. I'm not calling for anarchy. But they clearly are concerned about security. They shut it down today, and they're going to do more of this. It's going to get ugly. More of this conversation with Kim Whaley when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure, dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow.
With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Attention is shifting to former Vice President Kamala Harris as the California governor race heats up. Former Congresswoman Katie Porter announced her candidacy to succeed term-limited Governor Gavin Newsom. The NTSB updated on the January midair collision between an Army helicopter and an American Airlines jet, which killed 67 people. Over 15,000 close proximity events occurred near Reagan National Airport from 2021 to 2024. The FAA is advised to limit certain helicopter operations over the Potomac River. Former NBA player and black billionaire entrepreneur Junior Bridgeman has passed away at the age of 71 after a medical emergency. He played for the Milwaukee Bucks and LA Clippers and built a fast food empire with over 450 restaurants. And TikTok is introducing new safety features for younger users, allowing parents to limit screen time. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Let Express Employment Professionals help you hire for contract or full-time jobs. Forget about recruiting, sifting through resumes, and interviews with unqualified applicants. Go to expresspros.com to find the location near you. That's expresspros.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers' 3-game winning streak ended Tuesday night with a 127-120 loss at New Orleans. Second straight game, the Clippers had to play without head coach Ty Lue. Lue is suffering with back pain. The NBA family lost an ultimate role model on Tuesday. Junior Bridgeman, who the Lakers traded in 1975 to acquire a player named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from Milwaukee, passed away after suffering a medical emergency while attending an event in Louisville. Bridgeman was 71. Bridgeman played the last 2 seasons of his 12-year NBA career with the Clippers. The real story about Bridgeman is what he did after basketball. He never made more than $350,000 a year in his career, but he became a billionaire after building a fast food empire. In February, Forbes magazine listed Bridgeman's net worth as more than $1.4 billion. More on the outstanding legacy of Junior Bridgeman this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their program. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Professor Kim Whaley, who is a University of Baltimore law professor, Fulbright scholar, author of a new book we'll get to a little bit later in this conversation. But in case you've just tuned in, the Department of Education has shut its doors after announcing yesterday they're going to lay off basically 50% of the workforce. Today, for security reasons, they've closed the doors. Sounds to me like somebody's scared. Somebody's scared of the blowback, of the pushback. So they made the announcement yesterday and then shut the doors today. That's a cowardly move, if ever there was one. You mentioned earlier, Kim Whaley, the monarchy. I just mentioned moments ago anarchy. As I said, I'm not calling for that, but there's something behind this decision for security reasons to just shut the doors today. We were talking on our program yesterday, I believe, about Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember, about the violence erupting in these protests against Tesla and Elon Musk. They're literally blowing up cars. These protests have gotten violent. Again, nobody's calling for that, but my sense is that there's some concern on the part of the administration about violence. How do you read closing the department today for security reasons? That part, and I'll push from there.
Well, hard to, this is speculation. I just want to make that really clear. I have no, just from a legal perspective, because I'm following, there's now 100 different lawsuits that are being challenged, challenging various Trump administration actions.
Sure.
If you say it's for security, then the courts oftentimes have to give the government the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the big issues right now in the litigation, Tavis, is that the judges don't even know what's going on.
Right.
I mean, that's very unusual. Not only do we have a very complex system where there's a lot of accountability and checks and balances, and people complain about the bureaucracy. People complain that the government's bloated. But all of that is actually to make sure that there isn't a lot of fraud and abuse and incompetence and corruption. And what's happening now is done behind closed doors. And, not only is the Trump administration not adhering to those things, but there's also a very careful paper record under lots of statutes. Agencies, it takes a long time because you've got to make a record, and I used to say when I worked for the Federal Trade Commission, it was polishing the pebble. You'd polish it and polish it and polish it. It'd go to many, many people over many weeks. I know that was kind of laborious, but it also made sure that, there was accountability. So I'm skeptical, frankly, that there's we've gone through 250 years of American history. There's never been I don't know, the Department of Education, I think, was maybe under Jimmy Carter. It's not that long, but we had 9/11, we had COVID, we had the sniper in Washington around the time of 9/11. I don't recall it being closed. We've had other protests. We had civil rights, violence in the 1960s. We had, President Kennedy assassinated. I mean, we've had very difficult moments in American history where the president didn't just shut down agencies. So, I mean, I would wonder if that's really an excuse so that when it's challenged in court, it's going to be harder for judges to push back. But again, that's just speculation.
Maybe you're right. You could be right. I could be wrong. We also are living in the era of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, who was gunned down in broad daylight. And many have celebrated Mr. Mangione for killing this CEO of this healthcare behemoth. Again, nobody's calling for that violence. I do not support that, but that's the era that we're living in. You can gun down CEOs of major corporations in broad daylight in New York City, in Manhattan, then anything is possible. And Trump himself has already been, a couple times the victim of an assassination attempt. So he ought to know better. And again, I want to be clear. I don't want the Secret Service, FBI, CIA knocking on my door. I am not calling for violence. What I am suggesting is that is the era in which we live. And when I see people making announcements where half the department is losing its job and the next day they close the doors, I just, I've been black. I've been black my whole life, and I can sniff these things. So I digress on that for now. Teachers are saying, obviously, this is horrible because jobs are going to be lost, class sizes are going to increase, special ed classes are going to be canceled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to pick up on another theme you raised earlier and take it a step further. My sense again is that part of this move, to the point you made earlier about, education being done 50 different ways, that is true. I think that's a problem in this country, that we do education 50 different ways because we got 50 different states. But there's a way in which one can read this as Donald Trump, courtesy of Project 2025, or in alignment with Project 2025, giving the states more rights. And so here we are back to the old playbook of the Republican Party, states' rights. I see us moving in that direction. How do you read that?
Well, I see us moving in that direction as well. I mean, there's, Congress can create laws that on a federal level that do affect state, education programs. It's kind of like voting. We could go to the Department of Motor Vehicles in any state and register to vote. That's because Congress kind of passes these overarching laws, and under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, they're the law of the land. So that's possible, but I mean, these states aren't going to have a whole lot of power if they don't have any money or they don't have enough money.
Right.
I mean, that's the big thing. One of the big things the Department of Education does is it funnels the money to the states. And if you fire those people, there's no one to do it. I mean, the government does take human beings to run at this point. And if they just aren't there, they can't do their jobs. I mean, people rail against the federal government, but I've been teaching this for a long time, Tavis. I don't think people understand how much we rely on it in our day-to-day lives.
Nope.
I mean, these are good people.
Nope. I've said many times on this program, I think that one of the outside hopes, one of the outside chances of slowing Donald Trump down is that the impact of these policies in red states, the states where he was supported, these folk are going to be impacted by these same decisions. I mean, they realize what the impact on them is. It may not be buyer's remorse, but this is not what they asked for. This is not what they had in mind when they sent Donald Trump to Washington to cause them pain, to cause them injury. We will see if I'm right about that in the long run. But again, I find it interesting, and I'm not naive here, that Congress, the legislative branch, would cede this much territory to Donald Trump. Even if you like Donald Trump, I've never, as long as I've been covering this stuff for almost 40 years, I have never seen any branch of government willingly cede its authority to another branch of government. And that's what the legislative branch is doing right now with these Republicans in Congress who control it right now. Don't stop Donald Trump. They're giving the executive branch more power. That just doesn't tend to happen. When we come forward, one other thing I want to cover, and then we'll get to your book here, is this conversation about packing the court. And that term can be defined a number of ways depending on whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. But to your point earlier that you don't expect the Supreme Court to save us, there are others who have that point of view as well. Joe Biden raised this issue late in his one term when he could do nothing about it. I've talked to many people about it. Elie Mystal has written best about it, the justice correspondent for The Nation magazine. But there are people who've said for a long time now, we need to address the issue of the Supreme Court, whether you're going to increase the number, whether you're going to limit the terms. something has got to be done about the Supreme Court. It seems to me that now would be the most propitious time for us to have that conversation for real, not naive about what could happen with a Republican-controlled Congress. But I want to ask Professor Whaley about that part, whether or not the time has really come for us to start talking seriously about how we address the issues on the Supreme Court and perhaps increasing the number. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stopped, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You've lost so much weight. How'd you do it?
I got medical treatment for weight loss through Zelty and lost 50 pounds. I struggled for the longest time, but Zelty makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelty providers can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight, like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others.
I've heard those medications can help you lose weight, but aren't they expensive?
Zelty can help get the medication covered by insurance, so it's as little as $0 a month.
What if you don't have insurance?
No problem. Zelty may be able to help you get other GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% off the price of name brand medications.
I'm ready to start losing weight. How do I get started with Zelty?
Just text.
Text SUNNY to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SUNNY to 200-300. That's SUNNY to 200-300. SUNNY to 200-300.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
A new day is on the horizon.
Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March, KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates the trailblazers who changed our world. From Rosa Parks to Constance Baker Motley, from Katherine Johnson to Kamala Harris, these are the voices that broke barriers, challenged limits, and reshaped America. Join us all month long as we honor the women who dared to dream, fight, and lead. KBLA Talk 1580, amplifying women's stories that inspire generations.
We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record, unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and University of Baltimore law professor Kim Whaley. You said earlier that you don't believe that the Supreme Court in this moment, in this crisis, is going to save us. You may be right about that. But what say you about whether or not the time has really come for a serious conversation about fixing what's wrong with this court?
Absolutely. I mean, I've said now for quite a while that the court has become a threat to democracy even before the re-election of Donald Trump. I mean, I think the time probably, honestly, was under the Biden administration.
Yep.
I mean, I know there was a big study that he did, and then the Senate that was controlled by the Democrats issued a report in late December about the Supreme Court, but I was waiting when the Senate was controlled by the Democrats. They had the Senate Judiciary Committee. I was waiting for the hearings on the conflicts of interest. Bring Justice Ginny Thomas's wife to testify. Talk about the conflicts around January 6th. Call in the billionaires or the millionaires that were reportedly lining the pockets of Justices Thomas and Alito. They didn't do it. And then even before that, when Mitch McConnell really outmaneuvered Barack Obama with the Supreme Court, appointment that he had, he chose Merrick Garland, and then Mitch McConnell, was Senate Majority Leader, wouldn't even give him a hearing, which is, there is nothing in the Constitution about a Senate Majority Leader. Barack Obama didn't even make a speech. Didn't push back at all. So, it is really deeply troubling, but unfortunately, in my view, the time for really pushing back on a lot of this has probably gone. And the Democrats, I think, have been careful, just very cautious and careful.
I want to correct myself from what I said earlier, because you just reminded me. There's an example right there where the executive branch did cede power to the legislative branch, because Barack Obama, you're right, he got schooled. Mitch McConnell just played Obama like a violin, and Obama never stepped up in that regard. So I correct myself. There is another example. Let me say there are two things I want to cover when we come forward in our remaining moments. You mentioned DOGE earlier, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. It is not a government agency, and Elon Musk is not a government official. It seems to me that he's operating within a bubble of lawlessness with all this stuff we see happening around us. I want to get your take on that very quickly, and then we'll say a final word about the new book from Professor Whaley called Pardon Power, How the Pardon System Works and Why. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life, so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABCRadio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABCRadio.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense.
Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Kim Whaley, University of Baltimore law professor. I've got a little less than 5 minutes here. Let me do this first and we'll move to your book. DOGE is not a government agency. Elon Musk is not a government employee. And yet he's causing all this havoc, including what we see today at the Department of Education being closed, operating, to my mind, within a bubble of lawlessness. What say you right quick?
I completely agree. I've written about this at length. People can follow my Substack twice a week. I break all this stuff down. Doge, I don't think that the Trump supporters voted for Elon Musk or these people that there's not even a definitive list of who's working for him. And constitutionally, we have 3 branches: executive, legislative, judicial branch. Nothing in there about private billionaires being part of the government. And he's exercising the power of a cabinet level official. And under Article 1, which gives the president his powers, it's clear that those folks have to be hired through the advice and consent of the United States Congress.
Yep. The book is called Pardon Power, How the Pardon System Works and Why, with a foreword by John Dean. John Dean, a personal friend of mine and a semi-regular guest on this program, has been on all of my programs over the years. We've been talking a lot about pardons of late, pardons in the Biden waning days, and principally his son, pardons of the January 6th insurrectionists when Donald Trump got in. In the 3 minutes I have left, tell me about Pardon Power, how the pardon system works and why.
Yeah, so you kind of give a great summary there, Tavis. It goes from the beginning, from really Jesus. Jesus was denied a pardon. Barabbas, Pontius Pilate gave it to a murderer instead, because on the Sabbath, or on Passover, the community could pardon one person, all the way, of course, to the most recent pardons. And I want to just focus, because you mentioned earlier the concern about violence in the United States right now, and pardoning those 1,500 people. That does kind of put a spotlight on endorsing violence. And the takeaway from the book is, the pardon is this relic of a monarchy that I think the Supreme Court has overblown and given the president too much power. But now, we saw that as the very first day of Donald Trump's second administration, sending a message that, violence is going to be forgiven if it's done in the name, in this instance, of trying to wrest the 2020 election from the voters and from Joe Biden, give it to Donald Trump.
Yeah. I suspect there are those listening right now who never thought about it in that way. But as we say in the black church, that'll preach. This notion that Jesus was himself denied a pardon as we push toward Easter. Somebody listening right now is going to preach that thing, that Jesus himself was in fact denied a pardon. It's a fascinating place to start the text.
Absolutely, and actually even goes before that, the Code of Hammurabi. I mean, pardons have been around forever, and they're in all countries except China. And the idea, Tavis, is mercy. The idea is that the criminal justice system makes mistakes and that there needs to be a stopgap. But unfortunately, just like the criminal justice system in the United States, before you get to a pardon, when you get arrested and the bail amount is set for you, and you're living in low income and you can't pay it. Yeah. There are the winners and the losers in the United States based on financial ability as well as race, unfortunately, statistically. And the pardon in the last few presidencies has translated to you get a pardon if you're rich and you have access. Yeah. So the mercy rationale, the idea of using the pardon to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks, it hasn't been the primary mechanism, or at least it hasn't been top of mind, I think, for some presidents. I mean, Joe Biden pardoned people on death row. Joe Biden, pardoned people really that had marijuana convictions. So, right. So there are some examples of it, but since really since Reagan and this mantra of being tough on crime in the United States, it's been it hasn't been used for, I think, its original purposes.
Yeah, I think both Republicans and Democrats are guilty of that. I digress for now. We ain't got time to get into that part. Maybe next time when you come back on, we'll talk about the book more expressly. The book is called Pardon Power, How the Pardon System Works and Why. The author of that book has been our guest for the hour. Pleased to have her, University of Baltimore law professor and Fulbright scholar, Kim Whaley. Professor, good to have you on. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for the time and for the insights.
Great to be with you, Tavis. Have a good one.
My great honor. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Attention is shifting to former Vice President Kamala Harris as the California governor race heats up. Former Congresswoman Katie Porter announced her candidacy to succeed term-limited Governor Gavin Newsom. The NTSB updated on the January mid-air collision between an Army helicopter and an American Airlines jet, which killed 67 people. Over 15,000 close proximity